Welcome to Supernatural Japan, where we journey into the mysterious side of Japanese folklore. The stories that flicker in the dark, whisper through the tatami halls, and hide just beyond the paper walls. I'm your host, Kevin O'Shea. Tonight, we explore a very special kind of haunting. One not born from the restless dead, but from forgotten things. These are the spirits of the objects around us, the things that once lit our homes, carried us through the rain, and kept us warm at night. And when they're neglected or discarded, they might just come back to remind us that everything, even the simplest household item, has a soul. Our story begins with a flickering glow in the dark, the Chōchin-obake, the lantern ghost of Japan. Before there were light bulbs and neon, the Japanese night was lit by Chōchin. Delicate paper lanterns stretched over slender bamboo ribs. Each one glowed like a small moon, guiding travelers down dirt roads, hanging outside inns, or lighting the quiet rooms of old wooden homes. But these lanterns were fragile. Their paper would tear, their bamboo would warp, and candle soot would leave them blackened and tired-looking. And that's when the old stories began. It was said that if a lantern reached 100 years of age, or if it was cast aside without gratitude, it could awaken as a Chōchin-obake, a living lantern. People spoke of seeing them drifting through alleys on humid summer nights, torn paper fluttering, a single great eye glowing from the center, and a long tongue wagging from its cracked frame. They are mischievous, but not dangerous. Pranksters that enjoyed startling the careless. A Chōchin-obake might hover near your window, giggling softly as its flame danced in the dark. Or it might flicker to life just as you blow out your candle, daring you to look at its way. A spirit born not from vengeance, but from neglect. A reminder that you must respect even the humblest of things. Now here's a little story about the Chōchin-obake called the Lantern of the Forgotten Inn. On the outskirts of an old post town in Gifu Prefecture stood a crumbling wooden inn, long abandoned after the road that once brought travelers was replaced by a newer highway. The locals called it Hoshizuki Ryokan, though no guests had stayed there for decades. One summer night, a group of high school students exploring the area decided to step inside, laughing nervously as they pushed open the warped sliding door. The air inside was heavy with dust and the faint smell of oil. In one corner of the lobby hung an old paper lantern, its once bright red ink faded, its paper torn and yellowed. One of the boys shone his flashlight on it. The lantern seemed to shiver. "Creepy," one of them whispered. "Maybe it's haunted," they joked, snapping photos with their phones, until a sudden gust of wind blew through the open doorway. The lantern swayed wildly, and the light went out. A flicker of blue fire appeared inside the torn lantern. Then slowly, it opened a single, unblinking eye where the paper had ripped. A long, pointed tongue lolled from the tear as a deep, wet laugh echoed through the dark. "You forgot me, but I remember you all." The students ran, their footsteps pounding down the deserted road until they reached safety, the safety of the streetlights. And later, when they looked through their photos, one image showed the lantern, its paper glowing faintly, the shape of an eye staring right back at their camera. No one has gone back to Hoshizuki-ryokan since, but on humid summer nights, travelers on the old road say they can see a faint lantern light swaying in the distance, moving on its own as if searching for someone who once left it behind. The Chōchin-obake is one of Japan's Tsukumogami, a category of yokai unlike any other. Tsukumogami are everyday objects that have reached the age of 100 years. And through time, spirit or sheer stubbornness have come to life. An old teapot might start whispering. A mirror might show your future instead of your reflection. And a sandal might run around a room shouting about being left behind. In ancient Japan, it was believed that everything, not just humans or animals, but tools, furniture, and utensils, contained kami, spiritual energy. And when you treated your belongings with respect, that spirit stayed peaceful. But when you threw something away, ignored it, or replaced it carelessly, it might grow resentful. And that's when objects became yokai. The stories of Tsukumogami served as both warning and wisdom, a moral tale about mindful living and gratitude. Respect your tools, care for your things, and remember that even the smallest objects have memories of how they were used. And no spirit reminds us of that lesson quite like the Chōchin-obake. But the lantern ghost isn't alone in this world of animated relics. Somewhere in the shadows of your home, near the entranceway where old sandals gather dust, another spirit waits. It doesn't glow like the Chōchin-obake. It scurries. This is the Bakezōri, the haunted straw sandal. Zori were traditional Japanese sandals made from woven rice straw. Practical, everyday footwear worn by everyone from peasants to monks. But, just like the lanterns, when these sandals grew old or were discarded carelessly, they didn't always stay quiet. The story goes that at night, a worn-out pair might start to shuffle and dance on their own, stomping around the house while chanting Kararin, Kororin, Kasa ni nuke ana, Sanen yome nashi. Clatter, clatter. No straps, no hole, no wife for 3 years. What does it mean? Well, no one's entirely sure, but folklorists believe it's the sandal's lament about being incomplete and unwanted. After all, who wants to walk through life with only one shoe? The Bakezōri is harmless, more noisy than scary. It embodies the same spirit as the Chōchin-obake, a once useful object brought to life through neglect, seeking attention and maybe a bit of fun. And like the lantern ghost, it carries the same cultural reminder to treat the things we depend on with care, because even the smallest tool might have feelings. Now, it would seem fitting that I share another story with you. In a quiet village in Tottori Prefecture, an old sandal maker named Heisuke once lived. His shop was small, tucked behind the shrine, and he made fine straw sandals for farmers, travelers, and monks passing through the valley. However, as the years passed, rubber shoes and factory-made zori gradually replaced his handmade ones. Business slowed, and eventually, the little shop was forgotten. One night, long after Heisuke had passed away, the villagers began hearing strange sounds coming from his old workshop. It started softly, a faint shuffle. Shuffle, thump, shuffle, thump, shuffle, thump. As if someone were walking with mismatched steps. Well, maybe it's a rat, they said, but the noise grew louder each night. Shuffle, shuffle, thump, shuffle, shuffle, thump. One brave boy decided to peek through the dusty window, and when he saw what he saw made his breath catch. Inside the moonlit shop, old straw sandals were dancing. Some hopped around, others limped along in pairs, their frayed straps flapping like little arms. Leading them was a single, one-eyed sandal with a torn thong and a mischievous grin. It stomped 3 times and sang in a raspy voice, "Kararin, kororin, left behind, worn and torn, we'll walk forevermore." The boy ran home terrified, but also a little sorry. The next morning, the villagers returned to the shop and found only scattered sandals and faint footprints in the dust. Out of respect, they gathered the old zori, cleaned them, and offered them at the shrine. After that, the strange footsteps stopped. But even today, on quiet summer nights, people say they can still hear a faint shuffle, shuffle, thump, echoing near the old shrine. A reminder that even the most ordinary objects have spirits that long to be remembered. Over time, both the Chōchin-obake and the Bakezōri drifted out of ghost stories and into something more playful, icons of Japanese pop culture. In Edo period art, they often appeared side by side in hyaki yagyo paintings, the night parade of 100 demons, floating and hopping together with umbrellas, futons, and teapots. By the 19th century, they had become comedic yokai, appearing on toys, playing cards, and picture books meant to amuse children rather than terrify them. And as Japan's pop culture blossomed in the 20th century, these object spirits found new life. Now in anime and TV, both the Chōchin-obake and Bakezōri show up regularly in Gegige no Kitaro, the beloved yokai series by Shigeru Mizuki. There, they're often side characters, bumbling, funny, and friendly. Now, in video games, the Yokai Watch series features a lantern ghost named Chōchin-obake and other Tsukumogami-inspired characters. In games like Nioh or Onryoji, these spirits take on darker, more mystical forms. In manga and art, modern artists often draw them as kawaii, big-eyed mascots. You'll find lantern ghosts smiling from stickers, gashapon capsule toys, and even plush keychains sold at temple festivals. And we can't forget crafts and festivals. During summer and the Obon season, children make paper lanterns decorated with silly yokai faces, direct descendants of the Chōchin-obake. And likewise, sandal-shaped charms and straw craft kits appear in local folk museums, keeping the Bakezōri's spirit alive through hands-on tradition. What began as superstition has become something warm and nostalgic, a bridge between Japan's handmade past and its creative present. When you look closer, both of these yokai, the glowing lantern and the dancing sandal, are reflections of a deep cultural idea. That impermanence and respect go hand in hand. In Western ghost stories, the dead linger. In Japanese folklore, Even the used lingers. A lantern once brought light to a home. Now it returns to remind us not to waste. A sandal once carried someone's journey. Now it dances alone, asking to be remembered. The Chōchin-obake and the Bakezōri may make us laugh, but their message is serious and timeless. Cherish what you have, and it will serve you. Forget it, and it might come back with a personality of its own. You've been listening to Supernatural Japan. Tonight, we followed the soft glow of the Chōchin-obake and the clattering steps of the Bakezōri, two spirits that remind us the world is alive with more than meets the eye. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow Supernatural Japan on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please leave a rating and a review. That helps more spooky history lovers just like you find our show. Also, a big hello and welcome to all of the new and excellent listeners who found the Supernatural Japan podcast in the last 2 weeks. I'm so happy to have you here. And there's been so many of you listening to the podcast. And I'm curious, where did you all learn about the Supernatural Japan podcast? I'd love to know. Please shoot me an email at supernaturaljapan@gmail.com and let me know. I'm extremely interested in knowing where all of these new and amazing friends have come from. Now, to see photos of the Chōchin-obake and the Bakezōri, what do they look like? Well, they're super cute. They're super silly. And if you follow the podcast at Supernatural Japan on Instagram, you can see what all that yokai hype is about. There will be a whole bunch of representations, lots of pictures of these, the Chōchin-obake and the Bakezōri, from movies to anime to manga. I'll post them all up on the Instagram. And that link, I should say, will be in the show notes, of course. Check out our Facebook group for photos as well. Now, myself, Kevin O'Shea, your host, I'm on Blue Sky and X at Mad for Maple, posting some things that are spooky and a lot of things that aren't necessarily spooky, but more travel-related, food-related. Check it on out. All those links are in the show notes. Again, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, you can always shoot me an email at supernaturaljapan@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your ideas, your stories, or any weird and spooky experiences you've had when in Japan. Of course, each episode of Supernatural Japan is also posted on YouTube at the YouTube channel Busan Kevin. That is my YouTube channel. And that comes from the RSS feed. So it's basically a static image with the audio podcast. But most recently, the episode with Sean Morrissey talking about supernatural encounters in South Korea. That was the full video version of the interview. Now, on the episode about Kisaragi Station, there was a comment by Philip Jackson Guitar, and that comment said, "Great episode. Not heard of this story before. Sounds like a hoax, but who knows? Time slips? Parallel universe?" Now, the very interesting comment. I personally think this story was all a hoax. Absolutely. But before I explain why I think that, if you're unfamiliar with the term a time slip, now a time slip is a phenomenon where a person may appear to accidentally travel to another time, either by experiencing a vision of the past event or by physically slipping into a different era. Now, I think I first heard about this in different episodes of Graveyard Tales, the Graveyard Tales podcast, Astonishing Legends, where, for example, maybe there's someone who's traveling along a long road, a long highway somewhere in the United States, in a desert or something, and they see like a diner on the side of the road, and there's nothing else for a long time, so they pull into this diner, and there's no other cars parked there, or there's a few, and they walk into the diner, and they go inside, and they maybe order some food, and they sit down, and they look around, and they notice that everyone is dressed from a long time ago. Like maybe everyone's dressed in the style of clothing from the 1950s, and that no one seems to notice them. Everyone's very engaged in their own conversations, having their own talks or life. It's an engaging place, but no one seems to notice them. And things just seem very strange there. And they realize that it looks like they've somehow stepped back in time. And then maybe later on, they leave that diner and maybe they come back another time and the diner's not there. Like that's the concept of a time slip. The thing is with this episode, or this tale, Kisaragi Station, it's supposed to have happened in 2004. And basically this person is almost like live tweeting or live live texting what's going on with them as they get to this mysterious train station and all the events that are happening. And I'm just thinking in my mind, when I was reading this originally, we didn't have the technology in 2004 to do this. I mean, I lived in South Korea in 2004, so I had a flip phone by LG that was way more advanced than, in a lot of places. Now, I also realize that in Japan, their technology at that time was far more advanced than, say, in America or Canada. But would you be able to get onto a message board like Nichan and like live text what you're doing? I mean, I was wondering, how would someone be able to do that? Or they're carrying a desktop computer with them and somehow had a mobile internet connection. So how would that possibly be able to happen? I was assuming it would be someone, sitting in their bedroom or their basement, wherever it was, somewhere in Japan, making this story up and just sharing it as they went in 2004. That's probably more realistic. But if any of you guys want to listen to the podcast on YouTube, at Busan Kevin, the channel is there. The episodes are all there. And please leave comments when you do listen to an episode of Supernatural Japan on YouTube. Now, by the way, if you're interested in reading some supernatural and spooky stories, I want to recommend once again that you check out Supernatural Encounters in South Korea by Sean Morrissey. He was our guest in episode 78 of the podcast. 78 of the podcast, or was it 77? I can't remember offhand. 2 episodes ago. Now, we had a fantastic conversation about his book, and he shared some very creepy and spooky tales. It's a great read, and his stories were gathered from firsthand research and interviews during his time in South Korea. You can find his book over at darksideofsoul.com store. Now, I also want you to check out Philip Jackson's Japanese Spooky Tales on Amazon or hiddenpathskyoto.com. He is the author of Paranormal Kansai as well as Paranormal Japan. Now, Philip has been a guest on Supernatural Japan several times in the past, and we'll definitely make sure he's on again in a future episode. Now, for loads of fantastic information all about yokai and Japanese folklore, check out The Book of Japanese Folklore, an encyclopedia of spirits, monsters, and yokai of Japanese myth by Teresa Matsuda. You can find this great book at most major bookstores and online. I picked up my copy of her amazing book at the Kinokuniya shop in Kuala Lumpur last year, and I love it. Teresa is also the host of the absolutely fantastic Uncanny Japan podcast. If you like this podcast, you should definitely be listening to Uncanny Japan as well. Now, I have a copy of all of these books mentioned, and they're all fantastic, and they would make great and fantastic spooky additions to your library as well. And hey, maybe one day I'll even add my own book to this list. So everyone, remember, when something in your home creaks, clatters, or flickers at night, it might not be your imagination. It might be just something old, something forgotten, saying it's still here.